Hello and welcome to another edition of Fides Podcast. My name is Jerry Serino and I'm your host, and I'm here with talent on loan from Rush. And I'm also here with a group of people that are here to talk to us about freedom of speech. It is our freedom of speech is being curtailed at every level, specifically in our schools. And we need to protect that freedom of speech. It is the First Amendment for a reason. It is extremely important, and it is a tool to be destroyed by tyrants, in my opinion. And that is something we know from historical fact. My guests today are Rachel Sager, Katie Medard, and Matthew Hoffman. Matthew is from Alliance Defending Freedom. He is a second-time guest here to talk about what they are experiencing. Katie and Rachel specifically experienced in their school district and with their freedom of speech. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off with the essence of what happened, and I'll maybe start with you, Rachel, just to help direct this a little bit, so we're not all talking over each other. Tell us what happened to you specifically. I have the details. I know the details. I read the case, but tell us what happened at your school.
Yeah. So in summary, Katie and I were educators in Oregon. We started a grassroots movement called I Resolve to speak out on gender identity education policy and to offer solutions that would allow teachers to continue teaching in the classroom without violating their conscience, and that would respect the rights of parents. And after posting our video on our own website promoting our organization, Katie and I were suspended and then terminated by our school district for speaking out. We were eventually reinstated, but to inferior positions. And I've since left the district and I'm currently still looking for work.
Gotcha. And Katie, so what are you currently doing right now?
Yeah, so I'm still employed with the school district. However, I was reinstated, like Rachel said, to inferior position. I'm working from home, teaching students online.
Gotcha. Yeah. Online schooling is not, I mean, it's for some people, and some people do it and they do it by choice and they want to do it, but it just gives me memories of COVID. Just sorry. That just came up to me. So, okay. So Matthew, this happens to teachers who on their own personal time, on their own personal website, we all have personal things, relative to where we work. We're involved in maybe charities. We're involved in political campaigns. My sister is running for school board actually in a city here in Northeast Ohio, and I've done things with her, right? And we all have our beliefs and opinions, and we're able to voice those opinions. Here you have teachers who are pretty knowledgeable, and I would think should be people that you say, hey, we have this transgender stuff going on. We need some input and advice. Here's people giving that input and advice. Fantastic. And then this happens to them. Matthew, what did they need to do at that point? I mean, obviously they contacted you.
Yeah, Jerry, I think that's absolutely correct. And the bottom line is that the First Amendment protects the rights of all teachers to speak freely on matters of public concern. Just like you said, teachers are the most knowledgeable about issues of education policy. And so we should listen even more to their opinions and protect those opinions even more because they contribute to the betterment of children, the betterment of school districts. So Rachel and Katie spoke on their own time while away from school on a public social media platform. And it was only the response of some who took offense to their viewpoints in the district that ultimately led to their unfortunate punishment. And in that situation, they reached out because they were suspended, and unfortunately had to take legal action because of that.
Yeah, and again, this is you and I were talking with Maggie, who was in a similar type of situation a few weeks ago, or when we talked. Not the situation didn't happen a few weeks ago, but so I mean, ultimately, I have to imagine that there are people who were on the other side of the issue, meaning they were, say, pro transgender everything, and all that, and they voiced their opinion. Are you aware of anyone from that side being suspended for giving their opinions?
I think that highlights the very problematic nature of the school district punishment here is that they acted essentially to enforce an ideology. The superintendent sent out an email actively soliciting complaints against Rachel and Katie, and said that the district did not endorse the message and condemned Rachel and Katie's speech. So the problem here is that the district is favoring one side of the issue, which is completely inappropriate for a government actor, especially on such a sensitive issue.
Yeah, for sure. So it's ultimately a freedom of speech issue. I would support someone from the other side giving their opinion as well, although I drastically disagree with the left's ideology on the whole transgender thing. I respect that people have the right to speak. So going back to you, Katie, so what were some of the things, are you able to share, that you had suggested?
Yeah, so Rachel and I put forward reasonable, loving, tolerant solutions, like Rachel mentioned, to protect parental rights, and that we wanted parents to be required to be involved. If a student was requesting to explore gender transition and wanted to change their names or their pronouns, so we wanted parents to be involved. And then to protect teachers and all parties involves conscience. So our First Amendment says, well, I won't speak on to exactly what it says. I'll let Matthew comment, but that we don't have to be, our speech should not be forced to say something that we don't believe in. And so as a Christian, not forcing teachers to have to honor pronoun requests and tell a child that their gender and affirm that by saying that they're using their pronouns that are opposite from their biological sex. And then we also put forward ideas about bathrooms and having the labels be consistent with biological sex of students, and promoting gender neutral bathrooms for use. And then finally, we put forward the idea of just that students, if they wanted to change their name, that they would have to use a derivative of their legal name. And those are the reasonable, loving, tolerant solutions that we put forward to be able to try to best care for our students. And then we were punished for sharing those ideas on a matter of public concern.
Boy, those yeah, those sound so horribly barbaric. Let's see, informing parents, giving teachers the freedom of conscience to, to behave in the way that they want. Boy, that is so horrible. You two are just horrible people for wanting to inform parents about something like their own children. That's crazy. So tell me, go to you, Rachel, were there people that came to you and said, hey, I agree with you, I like what you're saying?
Yeah. So originally, when we came up with the solutions, I actually brought them to our HR director, and he thought it was really creative, because what we were staring down the barrel of was these legislation from the state and from the federal government that was potentially going to force this. And we weren't okay with that. And so when I brought it to my HR director, he said, this is creative. Bring it to the superintendent. I brought it to the superintendent in a meeting, and he said basically the same thing. This is creative. I'm going to bring it to the legal team and potentially bring it to our school board, as long as that's through our legal team. And then to suddenly, over spring break, again, on our own time, own platform, we posted a video about it. We came back, still didn't, it was crickets as to opposition. And then suddenly we got brought into the district office and said, hey, some people have some concerns. And when we say some, we mean fewer than 5 at the time. And then we were put on leave for what amounted to 5 formal complaints, until, as Matthew said, the district actually reached out to our community and asked and solicited for complaints. But up until that point, we had spoken to people in the LGBTQ community and run these by multiple people that were very far to the left of us, people who were even further to the right of us. We asked several people what they thought of these, and all we heard was, these make sense. These are logical, and they protect everyone, which is the goal of educators, right? We want to protect everyone And when we say everyone, we mean everyone. We don't just mean a subset of any student population or subset of our teacher population.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's incredible to me is they want to. I love everything you guys are saying as far as how we should treat someone going through, you know, transitioning or gender confusion, whatever we want to call it. I have my beliefs. I believe that they the loving thing to do is to help them overcome it, right? But I can't force that upon a neighbor down the street who's dealing with this. That's between them and their parents. But you know, if someone is dealing with that, we should treat them with respect and dignity. They do matter, absolutely. But so do people like you and I, and so do, you know, girls who don't want to have to, you know, shower or change for volleyball practice with a boy who comes in, right? It seems as though they're only concerned about one side, like you said. But Matthew, let me go to you real quick and say, okay, so if these people had a problem with what Katie and Rachel wanted, what essentially they're saying is that parents, it is okay to hide a kid transitioning from the parents, and it is okay to force teachers to use someone's preferred pronoun, which I am absolutely against, right? That's not freedom of speech, and that's not respecting Katie and Rachel and others like them. So is that essentially what we're dealing with, is they want to force us to behave or think or speak a certain way?
Yeah, this case primarily involves the freedom just to even debate these topics. It's, I think, even more fundamental than you're saying. But you are correct that Rachel and Katie spoke after the school district released administrative guidance that would force teachers to use these pronouns and to potentially withhold information from parents. So they spoke in response to that to point out, the very real problems with that, the impingements on their freedom of speech and of the right of parents to know. And they were punished because of that. And so this case is really about even the freedom to just debate those issues, not necessarily the policies themselves. But I think at the most fundamental level, we should all agree that we should be able to freely debate these types of policies.
Yeah, and that's ultimately, like I said in the beginning, that's all we're looking for, is like have these discussions and have them respectfully, because it's our side and the opinions of Katie and Rachel and the clients of Alliance Defending Freedom. It's our side that is being censored, and it's the other side that is being pushed and promoted. And we're called, we get the hashtag Stop the Hate if we believe in traditional marriage, or we believe in informing parents of a kid going through gender confusion, whatever it may be. So what is the current policy of the, and I guess, I don't know if Katie, if you still know, since you're still in the district, what is the current policy of the school district?
Yeah, so the current policy is the administrative memo. So students are allowed to use whatever bathroom that they identify with. I have received directives that mandate speech, that you have to honor student pronoun requests, and that parents can be left out depending on the situation. If the student is requesting for the parent to be left out from their transitioning their name and their pronouns at school.
Or if I can add to that too, in terms of current policy for the speech side, as Matthew was saying, with the fundamental rights that are being under attack, the current policy, and one of the big reasons why we submitted our lawsuit, was because after we were put on leave, the district changed their speech policy to restrict it even further, right? Restrict our speech even further. And now the policy basically says that on any issue that reasonable persons may disagree, that you can't have that discussion. And that's anything. That's anything from a football game the night before to, what's the best breakfast food? All of those. That's anything that reasonable people may disagree on and may have a reasonable discussion about. And that speech is completely a restriction of our freedom of speech. And it even goes further to say that as long as you're on the side of the district, as long as the district is taking a stance on it and you agree with them, you're allowed to speak out. But anyone else, you're not allowed to speak, whether at school, in your own time, or on district property at all.
I'm somewhat speechless with that. I mean, that is insane to me. And as I said at the beginning, this is what tyrants do. This is so dangerous that we've seen this with censorship. I cannot post anything on YouTube regarding COVID or the vaccine. Just my opinions, just interviews with people and giving their opinions. I can't without being taken down, right? And you guys are being punished, losing your jobs, your livelihoods, and being forced to go take legal action. And thank God for Alliance Defending Freedom, who is there to help people like you and in your circumstances. It is so important, but it shouldn't even have to occur. It's really, really sad to me. But that's why we're here. And I appreciate Rachel, Katie, and of course, Matthew from Alliance Defending Freedom for standing up and fighting this. And, please, anyone who wants to be involved or support Alliance Defending Freedom, you know how to reach them. It's adflegal.com, right, Matthew?
adflegal.org. Yes.
.org. Okay. Yep. Sorry. Thank you. adflegal.org. Reach out to support them, because there are cases like this all over, and you guys represent people like them, little or no pro bono. Is that correct?
That's correct. All representation is of no charge.
Okay. And again, that is really important. Well, I thank all three of you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys fighting and for all that you do. So thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank all of you for listening to this episode of Fides Podcast. Please check out all my podcasts on all the different podcast apps, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, on rightamericamedia.com, and on whkradio.com/podcast. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.